at one of her surprise birthdays. So with the help of our friends at Disney, her friends at Disney, they gave us a room and a screening room, and we invited some of her close friends and family, and we actually premiered the doc for her.
And like 400 of her closest friends, too. Yeah, it was like just like a small event. I remember that the day, Betty hadn't seen the film yet. We kind of had a rough version kind of ready to show to her. And she saw the film, and you're kind of, as a filmmaker, you're super nervous. Like, I got to leave the country if this goes bad. And Betty looked at me, and she goes, I really like it, but is it too much Betty White?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is great. So she was so sweet about it.
Yeah, that was a fun party. It was her Scrabble-themed birthday party.
Yes.
Because, yes, another question was, did she really like to play games? And the truth is, she 100% was a game player. She Scrabble, crosswords, and went poker, a vicious poker player. She was in a group with friends called the Pico Poker Players for something like 60 years, and she started off playing with a whole group of friends, including Bob Stewart, who created a lot of really great game shows and things, and she ended up playing with like her friends' children, grandchildren, some great-grandchildren, because people would come in and out of the group, but there are a few members of that group that are still intact, and so that was always fun to see them together.
Okay, how long were you with Betty? How long did you work with Betty?
So just under 10 years. So, yeah.
All right, another question came in. I read that it took 10 years to make this film. What was it that took so long to make it, and why? I think most people retire at like 88, so we thought we were done by about 88. She was just going to do SNL that year, and then she went and did Hot and Clean, and she just kept working. And so we just had to kind of keep chasing after her with this film. So it did take us 10 years. We interviewed her, I think 10 to 12 years ago originally, and then maybe about 6 years ago, and then maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So, and just kind of followed her around. I remember, I think the last scene we filmed was Bam Bam. Right? I think that was the last scene that we filmed. And it was weird. I was in there with the camera, I was filming, and you get this sense when you're a filmmaker that sometimes you're not wanted to be around, and like Bam Bam's looking at me, Betty's looking at me, I'm filming, and I thought, all right, this is the moment for these two to be alone. So I kind of quietly walked out and left, and but you're in front of this huge bear that's just, you see the size of this bear's head? I mean, it's like this big. And he kept looking at me and was like, what are you doing here? I'm with Betty. And so at some point I thought I got to get out of there. So, but she loved Bam Bam. She was really close. And they had this weird, freaky relationship that was just, they both knew each other. And
she would put a marshmallow in her mouth and lean in, and Bam Bam would come down with his mouth and take it out of hers.
At one point, Bam Bam, he's 800 pounds or whatever, and he starts leaning and wants to sleep on her shoulder. And it's just, she's small, So
and the trainers kept saying,
yeah, it's like,
and she
no,
was like,
we're not going to do this.
It's okay. He can lean on me.
Yeah.
And we're like, he's 800 pounds, Betty. Yeah. I have a picture of them somewhere with her hand on top of his front paw, and it's just when you see how little her hand is compared to the size of his, it's one of my favorite pictures. It's amazing.
Oh, okay. All right. One question here from this list was, what was it like for Betty to look back on her career and life with these interviews? Betty was very unique. She didn't really look back. She looked forward, right? I mean,
100%.
She remembered moments, but she was always kind of looking. You talk about the calendar in that one scene. The calendar has to be full. She always kind of looked ahead in her career and her life and was very optimistic about the next day, right?
Yeah, I would say another question that people ask often is, did she have a favorite show that she did or a favorite character she played? And I would say the next one, because I've never met anybody that loved working as much as her, and it didn't matter what she was doing. She was just committed 100%. She would show up. She was always the first one there. She was always ready to go. She always knew her lines. And it was really, I always thought it was so fun to get in the car with her after a show or after she was working, because she would sit and she'd take a big sigh, and then she'd turn around and she'd say, well, that was fun. And it was just, her enthusiasm, just, you could not be happy. I mean, you had to be happy when you were around Betty White. That's just all there was to it.
Okay, you ready? They're all for you. I heard it was great working with Steve. Is that true? No, I just made that one up. In her later years, this is a really good one. Someone's really paying attention. In her later years, Betty was seen wearing a necklace, a special necklace. What's the significance of the necklace?
So the heart necklace is the one. Look, everybody's nodding. Yes, everybody knows. So that necklace was given to her for her birthday by Jennifer Love Hewitt. After they did, oh my gosh, The Lost Valentine, thank you, I can't believe I blanked on that. They became very, very dear friends during the filming of that movie. They were like kindred spirits, and it was very sweet. She would visit Betty and call Betty, and so that was a gift from her. And Betty never took it off. The day that she put it on, she never took it off, not once. So, yeah, that was really special.
Okay, how did you get your job with Betty? That's a great question.
It is a great question.
Do you remember?
I did not actually interview with Betty herself. Yes, so I think Betty had an assistant for a really long time who moved on, and a friend of mine actually got hired to be Betty's assistant, and it was right after SNL and the 90th birthday special, and she got launched into that pop icon kind of status. And I had just gotten out of grad school and had a 1-year-old, and I was looking for a job, and my friend who I had worked with in New York called me, and she was like, what are you doing right now? And I said, nothing. And she was like, do you want to come and just like do errands and help me with fan mail? Because I can't believe it, but like Betty's running me ragged and I need an extra pair of hands. You'll probably never meet her, and you can bring your baby. And I think within a month, we were traveling with her to New York, and I was always with her, and my friend eventually moved on about a year or two later, and I stayed. So how lucky am I that, it all started with, you'll probably never meet her.
That's great. That's awesome. How did you pick the people to interview for the film? Good question. We actually talked about this a lot, too, and we worked with Betty on that, and we wanted people that were Betty's friends. That was the first kind of criteria. There's a lot of people in showbiz that are kind of showbiz friends, if you will, but we wanted people, genuine friends. And like, for instance, Ryan Reynolds. I mean, we thought, we'll call him up, we'll go through all the agents, managers, everybody, and we'll get a no. And Ryan was so excited to come by. He said, I'm going to hang up the red suit. I'll come over when you need me. And he was there and spent the day with us, and it was just so genuine. And he would just do anything for Betty, which I thought was just kind of spoke to how she was beloved by her fellow cast members and people she worked with. So we really kind of carefully handpicked people that we wanted to be in the film.
Yeah,
we talked about it a lot.
I think the other part of it is wanting to show that balance, because when she said, she did her showbiz career for her animal business, it was 100% true. And so we wanted to make sure that, we covered that her love of animals and things like that too, so.
Okay. You ready? Hard one?
I don't know.
Okay. What's the one thing you miss about Betty?
There is not just one thing. I miss her every day. I miss her a million times a day in a million different ways. It's funny because a lot of times, I'm old, so I'm on Facebook and not all the cool social media things that the kids are on. But my memories come up, and one came up recently, and it was just so perfect. It was at the beginning of COVID, when we were all, supposed to stay home for 2 weeks. It was going to be 2 weeks, and then that life was going to get back to normal, and so everybody stay home and stay safe. So I did. I stayed away. I worked from home, and I remember going back to her house for the first day, and she was reading her paper in the den like she always did, and I walked in and I said, "Hello, I missed you." And she just looked up from her paper and said, "Oh, were you gone?" And then the big smile came across her face, and I mean, we exchanged our little lovely repertoire, but that was just her every day to me. She would throw out her arms and say, "Welcome home," when I showed up. So that is, I just miss her.
That's so sweet. Why did you choose to end the documentary with her singing? We also talked about this a lot when we were making the film. Betty started her career life, singing, and we just thought there was something about kind of the retrospect.
She wanted to be an opera singer. I don't know if people know that, but when she was young, she had aspirations to sing opera.
So we'd found that clip that it's from 1952, I think. It was really early, the first early clip we could find of her singing. So we had her re-sing that song 60 years later, and we just thought it was something kind of neat about that.
I remember that day.
I remember
because
too.
when Steve said, "I'm going to ask her to sing it," I was like, "She's not going to do that. I bet she's not going to do it." And then as soon as he said, "Betty, I'm going to play this clip for you and just see what you think. It would be great if you would sing this song." And she just burst into song. She really did, and it was.
You were super nervous that day. I remember you were very nervous.
I was very nervous. I was.
Yeah, but it was great. It was really fun.
She loved it.
Any questions, by the way? Anybody want to raise a hand? You got a questions that you've thought of a question that we're missing? Anything?
I have some from the people online, Betty's fans and friends that I've been keeping track of. So give me 1 second, because I have only 2 hands and I have to scroll.
Okay. Good question here. Kiersten,
Yes.
what auction item means something special to you that's here in the auction? Just to talk about the auction a little bit.
That's a good
What's
question.
unique that you kind of go like? I mean, I saw the living room set over there. I remember the living room set.
Yeah.
And what's kind of?
There are so many things. And if I'm being honest, I only took like a cursory glance around tonight because I didn't want to get all emotional and then be crying and have to, come up here. There are a lot of things when I look around that evoke memories. I mean, even the simple director's chair over there that is just nothing blue, it's not from any show she did, but that is the director's chair that we used to put her in hair and makeup because when she worked towards the end, rather than take her to a studio or a set and, take 4 hours there, we would do the hair and makeup at home, and then she'd show up on set ready to go. So she'd go in, she'd do her job, and she'd leave. And so I look at that chair, and I can see her sitting in it. Little things like that, when I just glance around and I just have memories of that kind of stuff.
Okay, did Betty have a mantra she used and would remind people of?
Ooh.
I think what I learned was that kind of eternal optimist that
100%.
she is. And she would always find the silver lining to every cloud. And she was just amazing about that. And never a foul word about anyone. Mm-mm. And just, in this day and age where kind of comedy is often cruel and often harsh, I think she just found light and she was always funny. I remember one of the first days we were filming interviews with her. It happened to be, there were a lot of guys on the crew that day. Sound guy, light guy, camera guy, that kind of. And she looked every guy in the eye and she goes, "Steve, I like my odds." And everybody in the room just kind of starts laughing. They just know that right away. They all start falling over her because they just love her. And she's smart, too, in the business that they all fall over her now with extra lighting attention, extra camera attention, extra sound attention. So it's just so smart. And it's just, I don't know. She was so optimistic,
But
I
that's
think.
the reason why I think she was so beloved by fans and crew people. Everybody she worked with loved her because she did know everybody on a set. There was nobody that she didn't say hi to, and everything was thank you. And the guy that, claps the stuff before each shot, she would tickle him in between takes. And, you know, you're talking about her checking out guys. One of my favorite stories of being with her is, I forget where we were going. We were going for her to do voiceover somewhere, and we were walking down a hallway and around a corner, and there was this group of, like, crew guys, like big, you know, they had their hats on and beards, and they're these big burly guys, and they're all standing around chatting. And we're walking around the corner, and she just reached out and touched one on the arm, and she said, "Hi, honey," and she kept going, and I turned around, and the guy was like, "Betty White just touched my arm." Dude, Betty White. And they were like, "Betty White touched you? Where did she touch you?" And it was so adorable to see all these big burly guys, and they were just fawning over the fact that she touched one man's shoulder. And that's the effect she had on people, because she really was that genuine. She really was. And her mantra was, in fact, yes, be positive. I'm not nearly as positive as she was. So when I would kvetch about people or complain about people, she would listen to me very patiently, and she would always say, "And aren't you glad you don't have to live inside their head?" And that's how, you know, and I thought, what an amazing way to be forgiving and just accept people, right? Like when you think, oh yeah, they're kind of grumpy and miserable, and thank goodness I don't have to deal with whatever is making them that way. And that was sort of how she approached life. She would just say, well, we're not going to worry about that, are we? And she would move forward. She was very forward. It's like you said, it goes back to, she's very forward thinking. She didn't dwell. So.
Question, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Just so everybody can hear your comments about Betty being beloved, and there's very few people in this industry that are truly beloved, and that's so true. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's like 5 people that are pivotal to television. Betty's one, and the other 4 I can't remember anymore. Yeah. I mean, she's just so. We always said when we were making this film, like Betty invented television, and it was a perfect medium for her. And we just, I don't know, we were just fortunate to be able to do this. So I'm getting the sign that we have like time for like 2 more questions or so. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much for keeping up with her Instagram and her Facebook.
Oh,
that's all Kiersten.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I love doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to the estate for letting me do it, because it's really such a nice way to stay connected with her fans, because they meant so much to her.
Do you have a prized possession that they gave you or that after you
So
Is there a prized possession is the question, just so they
yeah.
can hear
Oh,
it.
sorry. So yeah, is there a prize? So there, I've kept a few things. You know, I bought her for Christmas one year an electric blanket that had dogs on it. And she literally, for the last couple years through COVID, every day had it on her lap. So that's the one thing that I have, and it's on my bed now, that of all the things that I could have asked for, that was the one that was like, can I please have the blanket? Because it was just something that I knew she really appreciated, you know, and I just spent so much time with her with that across her lap. I have lots of little notes and cards from her and letters. I have one from her that is my favorite, because she just wrote a little card to me that said, "Thank you for taking such good care of me," with a heart. So it's little things like that that I treasure.
Very sweet. Yeah, go ahead.
Some of the jewelry is inscribed with 4 letters.
Yes.
Okay, YVOH.
Your very own husband.
Thank you, I got it.
And there are some things that she would write to him when they signed cards and notes, your very own wife. I mean, talk about a love story. If ever, yeah, a movie should be made about a Hollywood couple, like Betty and Alan, they truly did. She, I mean, up until she passed, kissed his picture every day. When she would get up, she had a picture of him in the den, and when she came down in the morning to sit on the couch, she would walk past and kiss it. and sit down, and when she would leave to go upstairs at night, she would kiss it, and she always blew a kiss up to the sky before she closed her shutters and got into bed, and she'd say, "Good night, sweetheart." I can't even. And my friend Helen is here tonight, and that picture of Alan was so faded, and it was really, we were going to have to, I didn't know what to do with it, and my friend Helen, she restored it for Betty, and it just brought Betty so much joy. She was so happy to have her beloved in full living color.
You know, I thought that picture might be up on the office, or maybe a copy of it.
No.
One of the elements we didn't get in the film was Alan is buried in Mineral Point, Wisconsin.
Yes.
Small little town. The Luddens are from this community. It's a family plot. He's buried there. There was a man that worked across the street at a factory. He learned that Alan was buried there, went on his lunch hour, and saw that the grave site was kind of in disarray. So every week for the last 3 or 4 years, he's been going there, trimming the grass, cleaning the gravestone, putting flowers on it. Didn't expect anything from Betty or anyone, just did it because it was the right thing to do. We were filming that scene with him, and we sent a video to Betty that I sent to you that you played with, played it for Betty about he just wanted to do it because it was the right thing to do, and Alan would want that as well. So I thought it was really sweet. We couldn't quite get it in the film, and I kind of regret it, to be honest, but yeah, so, but it was a sweet, sweet moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just called on him.
Oh.
Sorry, 1 sec.
First, I just wanted to say thank you again for your content for Betty. It means so much to a lot of us. It's very special that she continues to live in our memories and our hearts.
Thank you. I'm so glad you guys like it.
A full-time job.
It is sort of, but it's also been a really good way to grieve, to share stories, and
Very helpful for a lot of us.
aw, good. I'm so glad.
I was just wondering how Betty felt about watching herself. If you had any memories of sitting around watching the Golden Girls or the Mary Tyler Moore show.
The question is, like, did Betty
Did she watch herself
herself?
or her shows? And honestly, she didn't, really. She didn't watch a lot of TV, believe it or not. So she was not, people ask all the time, what was her favorite sitcom? She was devoted to Jeopardy every single night. Jeopardy 100, Jeopardy was always on the TV, the news. She loved golf, dog shows. She watched her friend Jack Hanna on Sundays, and nature programs and animal things like that, but she was not a big TV watcher. Anything with Robert Redford. I used to bring her Robert Redford DVDs during COVID, so we watched a lot of Robert Redford movies.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Where did her personal films or photos go to? So some that we found actually went back to Mineral Point. So if they were pictures of, we found pictures of Alan's family back for generations. So we sent those back to Mineral Point because the library there actually has a whole Ludden family archive. I have some of her photos. And then, of course, she had stepchildren and family who took some the personal items that meant a lot to them. Yeah. Oh, what's your favorite clip of the documentary, Steve?
Other than the ones that you're in, the Bam Bam thing is kind of unique. I think it's kind of special. I think it just speaks to the core of who Betty was, and I think that was kind of a special moment. I love her working in her office. She was always really diligent about working in her office with you. I love that. I think those are probably my two favorite elements, I guess. And the clips, it was so hard. She's got just a massive career to go through all the episodes of everything and try to find like the fun clips. It was a great, easy job. Could just sit and watch DVDs all day long. But it was hard finding like the best. There's so much to choose from.
Yeah. You want to know mine? I don't know if I have one. I love the Bam Bam one too, but I think one of my favorites is when we were doing Young and Hungry, and I was running lines with her, and I was telling her to keep her clothes on, because she was always in competition with me for men, and she always won, and it was really annoying after a while.
Is Betty being laid to rest with Alan?
She will not be with Alan, and we're just following, the estate's following her wishes.
Who or what really made Betty laugh other than Bender O?
Oh, other than that, you know, she loved to laugh. So she loved her agent, could make her laugh. So both of her agents were in the film. So her agent from early days, Tony Fantozzi, they could crack each other up, you know, just on the phone. And her agent Jeff, she loved spending time with Jeff, and they would travel together, and she really liked the company of men. So she preferred, and she was very upfront about it, she preferred men to women. She just enjoyed their company and being able to cut up with them, and she was so uncelebrity, so a lot of her friends that weren't, you know, her poker friends, when they would just sit around and chat. And the talk show guys, she loved David Letterman, she loved Craig Ferguson, she loved Johnny Carson, like those guys. I was telling Steve actually before we were talking before the doc started about how she never wanted to do pre-interviews for those shows. You know, they call you ahead of time and ask questions to figure out what you're all going to talk about. And she would always say, honey, we're not going to use this anyway. We're just going to go. We're just going to get out there and go. And they really did. They would throw the cards away and just be talking. And I mean, if you watch her appearances on most talk shows, that she is one of the best talk show guests that I've ever seen. She just went with whatever was going on. She was amazing that way, just off the cuff. It was awesome. Hi, go ahead.
Yeah.
In the black. Oh, right behind you, and then I'll come back to you.
The question is how Betty felt about Ryan Reynolds. No, it's okay. Naming his daughter, I think it's the second one, named Betty. Boy, I'll tell you, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? I mean, just a name. He just loved Betty. He just truly loved Betty, and he was just so awesome to work with. And they were very close, very special relationship.
You know, she used to always joke because he would always talk about having the crush on her or trying to get her attention, and she was always mean to him. So she would always throw Robert Redford at him. You know, he's no Robert Redford, but she adored him. She adored him, and he was quite lovely to her. So, yes.
Yeah. Where's the film going to be shown, right, is the question. This has been on PBS already. It was on Netflix, and right now it's on Peacock. And so you can watch it on Peacock. And it's gone around the globe. It's really weird. We were pushed by Australia and New Zealand. They wanted it there so bad. I'm thinking, why? You know, it's like usually they're American stars, but Golden Girls has gone everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just, and we can see when a territory opens up somewhere, they just got Golden Girls there. So now they want the film. So everybody loves Betty. We're learning. So so right now it's on Peacock. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
I saw your question. I passed over it. I'm sorry because I knew the answer, and
she did not.
Yeah.
Food was not her thing, which she would say. You know, she ate to survive, but she did make incredible scrambled eggs. And I know I've posted about this, and it was very controversial. The bologna and peanut butter sandwich, which if you have not tried it, don't, or do, it's up to you. Toasted white bread, bologna, peanut butter, and iceberg lettuce. And if that doesn't just harken back to, you know, I mean, I thought of my grandparents immediately. She made me that sandwich, so you can't not eat it when Betty White makes it for you.
Way in the back. Yeah. We did the question was the last conversation we had with Betty. And long story, I'll try to make it short. We had a version of this film that was going to come out on her 100th birthday, January 17th. And we'd worked with Kiersten and at the whole Betty team. And worked with Glenn on this. We started about February or March of last year working on this. Going to be in movie theaters January 17th. Betty was going to be on the big screen. She was kind of excited about being on the
Very
big
much
screen.
so.
And people were coming
She
to
couldn't believe people were going to pay money to go to the movies
see a movie. Yes.
a movie about
So we extended the movie by 30 minutes to make it a 90-minute. This is 60 minutes. And we had inside information here. Only it's going to stay here. We had all these celebrity birthday greetings that were going to be at the beginning of the film, from Robert Redford and from Morgan Freeman. Everybody singing her happy birthday, and that had to be taken out of the movie before it went out. And Betty did a short little video to say hi to her fans on December 20th. A little video at home that she said, I want to say hi to my fans and thank them for coming out to see my movie. And it was the last little video that I think she ever did.
It was.
And it was just such a great sentiment, so sweet, and she looked beautiful, and she was great, and it meant the world to us for that. So
It was really important to her that her fans be able to see her. Like when we were planning this for her 100th birthday, she wanted to be seen. So my last conversation is really simple. I said, I love you, and she said, I love you too. And that was the last thing that we said to each other.
yeah, so. And it was so weird. It was devastating news, wasn't it? It was just devastating. And I'm like,
Still is, isn't it?
You know, it's just, yeah. And he's like, okay, she's 99. It shouldn't be as devastating because she's lived an amazing life, but it was like just a ton of bricks, wasn't it? And it was just so, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, personal comment. Go ahead, please. Okay. Last question.
So I think, Steve did a really good job of portraying her animal love in the doc, and obviously everybody who knows Betty or about Betty knows what an advocate she was for animals and the environment during her life. And fortunately, because of this auction and things like it, the estate's going to be able to continue to support those causes now. Like, her legacy will be that animals and the environment will continue to be protected and cared about. And so, I know a lot of people have had mixed feelings about, an auction or whatever, but when you think about the end result and the positive things that are going to happen because of it, like, this is all Betty. Like, it's all like Betty by design. She was very sure of what she wanted her legacy to be. The Aquarium of the Pacific? Yes.
I was told by one of the mammalogists that before they opened on the day of her birthday a few years, she went by and had some special time with Betty.
She did. So she was a supporter of the Aquarium of the Pacific, and we did visit there. She visited a few times. Otters were her big thing. Also, the Monterey Bay Aquarium. There was an otter at the Monterey Bay Aquarium because they have a big program in saving the sea otters up there. It's a big issue with pollution and things like that. And so the aquarium up there is really involved with a rescue program. They had a female otter there that became kind of the surrogate mom to all the baby otters and took care of them. And so they named that otter Tess after Betty's mom. Tess actually just passed away not long ago, which was such sad news. But she managed the otter, yes. Tess White was a while ago. But Tess the otter managed to act as a surrogate for, I think, dozens of baby otters, and actually, and they're being re-released. It's not like they keep them in captivity. Like, they raise them, they let them go. So Tess is responsible for kind of helping save the otters, and I just think that's awesome. And Betty loved it. We had a picture of Tess on her desk. Tess the otter, and Tess her mom, actually, and her dad, both.
Hey, everyone, thank you very much.
Yeah,
It's been a
thank
great
you guys
night.
for coming.
Go, Betty. And thank you.